All right, Phil Duke, welcome back to the podcast, brother.
Yeah, man. Excited to be on here again, man. Anytime I can hang out with you for a little bit, it's always a good time. So,
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I feel the exact same way, dude. I love always seeing what you're up to. You're a dude that thinks outside the box, does things differently. You've had a very successful real estate journey, continue to create, a ton of success. Now, just real quick before we get into the things that you're doing now, because there's so many having challenges, but you continue to crush it again, thinking out of the box, different ways to build wealth and put together deals in this industry. But before we jump into that, just for those that maybe haven't heard your previous podcasts or are unaware of, who you are, kind of just give us a snapshot of, how long you've been in the industry, kind of what your journey's been like up to this point.
all right. So, real quick, like 30-second version. I got in '06. '07 and '08 happened right after that. I flunked out of the industry. I joined the military, went back to college, ended up in pest control sales. I was the one that sold pest control and termite bonds. I was the one that would crawl under the house or in the attic, find what the problem was, diagnose it, and then come up with a treatment plan and, price it. And then, the guys would come in and do that. Got back in the real estate industry in 2015. I found you and I found your coaching program. I actually found your YouTube videos and your podcast first. And then you started the boot camp program. And I was like, this guy's giving me so much value for free already. I can't imagine what it'd be like to talk to him every week. And so I jumped into your coaching program. 3 years later, I was the number one agent in my town. Started my own brokerage. Turned that one office into 10 offices across 6 states. Got it to where I had a management team running it, and started doing more on the investor side: flips, rentals, wholesaling. And then as transactions kind of got slower the last 2 or 3 years, I really saw that my time and energy was best spent on the investing side of things and not so much running the brokerage. And so that's when I reached out to you about why you joined EXP, and it seemed to make a lot of sense that I could still have my team, still monetize the number of agents that we had, still give them even more support than we had ever had before as a independent or as a franchise, and made the move over to EXP, and really have just put the blinders on and just gone all in on the investing side since making the move over. But doing that has continued to grow our team, has continued to bring in more transactions, and I feel like it was like the perfect time to make that pivot. So that's where we've been at. I guess we made that move May 1st of 2025, and today's October 28th. So we're about 6 months into making the move over to EXP. So,
Yeah, love it,
yep.
dude. All right, man. So, one of my first mentors, he had told me, and this is a dude that had, I mean, he's one of the top realtors, team leaders, in the whole entire country. That's why I chose him as my mentor. And he said to me, he's like, look, Josh, if you want your business to always continue to grow and scale, no matter what's happening with the economy, no matter what's happening with the real estate market, he's like, get really good at acquiring and servicing traditional buyers and sellers, get really good at acquiring and servicing investors, get really good at acquiring and servicing distress, because one of those is always going to be strong. In this down market where traditional buyers and sellers transaction volume has been down, like you really went all in focus on the investment side, repping investors and then being an investor yourself, and helping agents do the same thing. So I don't know the best place to start, but let's just kind of unpack like what you're doing now, how you're having so much success right now. Because again, this is a niche that, and this is we're becoming more of a renters nation and more of an investor owned nation when it comes to real estate, and that's just the trend we're probably going to continue going.
Yeah, well, I would just say, one of my mentors always uses the Wayne Gretzky quote. They ask him like, "How are you always in the right position?" And he said, he doesn't skate to where the puck is. He skates to where he thinks it's going next, and that's how he always, And I'm not a hockey guy. Like we're in SEC country. We're college football down here, but like, so yeah. To that point, like I think people look at the market right now and like, this is not a good market. I can't tell you how many times I hear that. The market's down, the market's tough. Well, it's always good for somebody. It's either good for buyers, sellers, renters, or investors. Sometimes it's two of those at the same time. Sometimes it's three of those at the same time, but it's very rarely, four of those. It's a great market for all four of those at one time. And so, in like 2021, 2022, we had, houses hitting the market and getting, 50 offers in the first 48 hours, sometimes sight unseen, it's hard as an investor to buy a house at a good price when they know they can just stick a sign in the yard and get instant offers. Basically, you even had like some big technology platforms at that time advertising that you can like click this button and get an instant offer. One of them was actually called an instant offer, I believe. And so, you could tell back then, several years ago, like this is not going to last forever. Like I've seen this movie before. This is not going to, like, 2010 only, in Alabama, only 1 out of 17 houses that hit the market was actually selling. So as an investor, like you could tell several years ago that this market isn't going to last forever. This multiple offers on every house that's getting listed is setting the record for the neighborhood. You could tell that wasn't the case. And so as soon as that started slowing down, that's when I really decided at that point to, hey, I've done some investments here and there. I've flipped some houses here and there. I've built some houses here and there, had some rentals here and there, but I never really went all in on it. And I didn't want to go learn a new business. I didn't want to learn insurance. I didn't want to learn mortgage. I didn't want to learn title. I didn't want to learn, some other random business. I already know and understand real estate. I don't understand stocks and how all that works. I don't know. I'm Alabama public school education. I don't understand that. I put a little bit of money in that, but for me, real estate has just always made sense. And from having success, helping buyers, helping sellers, helping investors over the years, I just thought, why don't, instead of me going and working for the client, why don't I just become the buyer? Why don't I become the seller? And then I kind of found it was freeing to, I don't have to go show houses on Saturday and let them sleep on it Sunday just for them to change their minds overnight. Like if I find a house that works for me and it fits my criteria, I just go write an offer on it and I go buy it. And then I go make money on it. And we just repeat that over and over and over. So I just think, with the market being the way it is right now, at least in our area, listings are sitting on the market. We've had people who have low interest rate mortgages on their properties, and if they could sell them for top dollar, they would, but they don't have the money to fix them up. There's a big opportunity right there, right? They're equity rich, but they're cash poor because they most people live paycheck to paycheck. And so when you have people with houses that are just sitting there that aren't selling and they can't afford to keep paying these mortgage payments, it's just a perfect storm for an investor to come in and start taking down properties, whether you're taking them down to flip, you're taking them down to wholesale, or you're taking them down to keep, hopefully for a very, very long time, as rentals. So I think, I've heard you say this. I think this economy is going to get worse before it gets better. I think the next 2 or 3 years is going to be prime time for those agents who understand how to invest, whether they're doing it all in and that's the big part of their business, like it's mine, or just investors who, have an opportunity to list a property, have an opportunity to make an offer on a property, and they're able to take that property down themselves and monetize it versus just doing it for a client. And so that was kind of the future that I saw was, it's kind of, it's been great to be able to gain clients and do the marketing and that's great. We're still doing that every day. We're still helping agents do that. But for me, I wanted to be more in control. And so now I'm the client, I'm the buyer, I'm the seller, I'm the investor. And so now it's just like, I need to make a certain number of offers. I need to follow up on those offers. I need to look at a certain number of properties. And if I do that, then I'm going to win week after week, month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year. So that's kind of where we're at today.
And I look at this of like, okay, we got two choices, right? So if you don't want to take down the deals yourself, there's an abundance of investors. And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be local investors. I mean, I've got nationwide
Mhm.
investors that'll buy anywhere the numbers make sense, they'll buy. So you can go
Yep.
out there and use other people's money, get paid a commission, and rep them on it, or like you've done, you've become, the client yourself. But a big kind of limiting belief that most have is, oh, I don't have millions in the bank. I don't have the rich uncle that I can get a loan from. So many people think that they got to have stacks of cash to go out there and do this. Is that true? Have you found workarounds of being able to go out there and do this without having, 6, 7 figures sitting in the bank?
Yeah, no, that is one of the common misconceptions is that like you need to save up money. It stops a lot of people, hey, I want to start doing what you're doing, Phil, but I need to save up for a little bit. That's the exact reason why you should go ahead and get started. So I'll give you a couple scenarios that can work really well. So I've got a partner, a business partner who flips nationwide. Just like you mentioned, he'll go anywhere in the country that it makes sense. He does everything remotely. He'll put up all the money. He will be the one communicating with the contractor on a daily basis. I will go and do the drive-bys, like once a week just to check in, see how things are going, make sure things are looking right. And when we finish the flip, he'll pay me 35% of the profit and he keeps 65% of the profit. I have no money invested in that deal. So if I've got two or three deals going on myself and my funding options are a little bit tight, but I've got a really good property that I know money could be made, I'll just call him and say, "Hey, you want to partner on this deal like we did the last one?" And he's happy to get 65% of something because that's better than 100% of zero. So there are ways to do that. You can also you can be the deal finder. I don't, sometimes I hesitate to use the word wholesaler, but that's really what you are as a wholesaler. You go and find a property that would be a good flip or a good rental. And instead of you taking it for yourself, you offer it to a landlord, you offer it to a flipper, and you make a quick 3,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever the number is. Those flippers and those landlords are happy to take on a property that makes sense financially, and they don't care that you're making money off of it if the numbers still work for them after your fee is added on there. So I've almost done writing my second book called The Debt Free Investor. Hopefully it's going to be out soon. That's actually the path I recommend most people going in the beginning is instead of you going and being the flipper, find the flipper to partner with. Find the flipper who's already buying in your area, find out what they're looking for, go find them deals and make a quick 3, 5, $10,000, and then you will have some money that you can go take, and now you can invest and start doing your own deals that way. And you'll probably learn along the way. You'll get, construction contacts along the way. You'll kind of see some of the process without having very much of your money invested at all. So I think, if you don't have any money, perfect, right? You can actually get yourself into a lot more trouble if you've got the money and you jump into something and don't really know about it. I think it's actually smarter to start off without money and just make money as a partner or as a deal finder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's tons of hard money lenders that will even finance the repairs. So there's always like if you find the deal, there's always a way to put the pieces together. You know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, most people don't understand like you don't have to have previous experience if you find a good deal on a property. If you find a good property at the right price and the numbers work out, there's hard money lenders that will do it. They'll pull your credit, but you're going to be approved based on the property, not based on your income. And they'll give you. I mean, I've got a lender here that will give 100% towards the purchase price and repairs up to 65% of the ARV, which is the number you want to stay under anyways as a flipper. So you could literally close on the property and renovate it with no money out of your own pocket if you decide to go that route. Now, there's some interest payments normally cooked in, but again, I've also got some hard money lenders where if you find a really, really good deal, they will just add in your interest payments to the end when you close on it. So you're literally going the whole time with no money out of pocket. But it all comes down to if you can find the right deal, you will figure out a way to get the money for it, whether it's giving it to somebody else, going to a hard lender, or one thing that I love, I love getting money from private lenders, just private individuals that have money in their account. They don't want to go do what I do every day, but they also don't want to have, 200,000 sitting in the bank doing nothing. So I've got several people that if I found the right property today, and I needed to close on it next Friday, I could make a couple calls. Hey, here's how much money I need. Here's how much interest I'm willing to pay out. And they would wire the money to the title company for me. and we would have an agreement of how I'm going to pay them back. And instead of me paying the money to a bank or to a mortgage company, I would be paying it to them. And instead of their money just sitting there collecting, minimum interest in a checking or savings account, they're able to invest that money with me over and over and over and over. So there's so many ways you can go find the money, but it all comes down to finding the deal first.
Yep. So the next question is, and I get this question, I don't know, almost daily, is okay, I'm repping an investor. I want to become an investor. How do I find the deals? So, like, what are you doing? What are your top ways to go out there and find those great deals today?
Yeah, well, it's just like lead generation with buyers and sellers. Like everything works. There's nothing that doesn't work. But I would say the greatest use of my time today is two things. I look for rent by owners. Right, that's our number one demographic that we buy from: a tired landlord, somebody that's been self-managing. They've been collecting the payments monthly. They've been taking the work order calls in when the toilet's messed up or when the roof's leaking or when the air conditioner isn't blowing cold enough. They're the ones taking in all the calls. Normally, renters know that those people aren't professionals, so they tend to not pay on time. They tend to take advantage of having that person's cell phone number, and they normally are not collecting market rent. And so what happens is when a renter in one of those situations moves out abruptly or stops paying or damages the property, these tired landlords, they thought this was going to be passive. They watched the YouTube videos, they listened to the podcast, they wanted to build passive income for themselves. And next thing you know, this problem property or problem tenant is taking up all their time, it's costing them money. And so, we just simply reach out to for rent by owners and, hey, Josh, I noticed you got your property for rent by owner. I know you're probably just wanting to rent it right now, but I'm just curious, is that one that you would consider selling if you got the right price? And next thing you know, you're getting into those kind of conversations. So that has been a very, very, you can get the for rent by owner leads off of a bunch of different lead sources out there. Bunch of lead providers will give you the for rent by owner list literally to your inbox every day. They'll look at the sites and put it in like a CRM where you can follow up. But one thing that we realized, early on, my business partner and I were going heavy after off market deals. We had a cold caller that would call properties that weren't on the market. People that were absentee. They own the property in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but they live in Phoenix, Arizona. And we would call and that works. We would generate leads every month doing that. But what we found was like last year, 90% of all properties that sold were sold through an agent. 4% were sold off market, and 6% were sold truly for sale by owner, like a for sale by owner actually sold without an agent involved. And so when you look at those numbers, like most people, at least in our area and for most of the country, if somebody gets in a financial hardship, they don't think to call the local investor or the local wholesaler. They think about calling their buddy that's a real estate agent. So I've gotten a lot of deals this year just from calling agents and saying something like, "Hey, this is Phil Duke Jr. with eXp Realty. I was just checking to see if you have anything coming up soon that's not on the market yet that would be a good fit for a flipper or a landlord. I'm looking for myself, not for a client." And you'd be surprised how often an agent has met with somebody 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, 2 hours ago, and they've got this property that is going to be $50,000. It's junked up. It's got stuff all in it. It's all beat up. It's gonna a $50,000 sale for us in our area. You're gonna spend 10 times more time on that than you would on a $500,000 sale of a pretty house that's move-in ready. So they've got this property that they're not gonna make much commission on. They're thinking it's gonna take them a lot of time. And now I'm calling and they say, "Well, yeah, this is one, that might be a good fit for you." Well, I went and looked at it yesterday or looked at it last week. They're cleaning some stuff out. And next thing you know, we're looking at a property with a seller who's already indicated they wanted to sell, they've already got their agent that's going to help them on their side that they know, like, and trust. And then we just run the numbers and we see if we can make a deal work, either before it hits the MLS or after it hits the MLS. But one of the problems that we were finding with the off market leads, going direct to seller, was that our cold caller would have a good conversation with somebody. They'd say, "Yeah, I want to sell. I'm interested in selling the next 30 days." It would go into the CRM, and then I would spend like 2 or 3 weeks just trying to get that same person right back on the phone. So there was this natural wall that was put up because they saw us as not really trying to bring value. They didn't know us. And so now this investor's trying to call to make an offer on my house, and like, I don't understand the lingo. Well, now we're going agent to agent. We're letting that agent get paid a commission like they would, like they're entitled to. And now we've got an agent who understands the lingo, who understands the process. Now they're presenting that to the seller, and now I'm coming in as the investor. The seller has their agent, and we're working deals that way. So that's where most of my deals are coming from today. So it's not a lot of money, but it is just time, just sitting down, making the phone calls, letting agents, know that that's what I'm looking for, reminding them I'm here. People forget about the phone calls we had. But having that into a CRM and having a plan for that, that's kind of been where our business has transitioned the last 6 or 8 months or so, is just going direct to the agents. We know the agents are meeting with sellers. The sellers are wanting to sell. They've already got somebody that they trust. So instead of trying to go around the agent and go direct to the seller, we're just going direct to the agent. And I don't care if the agent's making a commission. If the deal works for me, hey, let's get that deal closed. Let's get that agent paid. And now instead of going to a seller and buying one house from them, we're probably never going to buy another house from them ever. Now we're turning these agent relationships into referral situations where the next time they get a fixer upper house, they're bringing it to me again. And they're, hopefully over the course of their career, we're closing multiple transactions with these agents instead of going direct to seller and closing one deal and being done and having to find our next seller over and over and over.
Yeah, love it, dude. So then I know that you, and I don't know how recent it is, but I know that you started these kind of group meetups. Now, are these group meetups? Well, before I ask any questions, like what led to creating these groups, and kind of walk us through how you're structuring and running these groups.
Yeah, so we've got a monthly investor club that we've had running for a couple years. It's kind of taken us a couple years to get it to where it is right now. But essentially, the way this group works is it's a once a month meetup. Um, you know, we try to get 50 to 100 people to come to a one night per month, typically on a Tuesday night. It's called a breakfast club, but we meet at night. It's called a breakfast club because we meet at night, but then we end up doing breakfast and lunch and coffee with people that came to the meeting, like, in between the meetings. Um, so we meet once a month. We try to get 50 to 100 people in the room, and that can help you generate clients. That can help you generate private lenders. That's going to bring properties to you. And really, we started it just because there wasn't a great resource in our area for that. Somewhere where people could legit just come and learn and network without having to pay to join a club, without having to pay to join a coaching program. And so these groups are different than a RIA or a BNI type group. It is totally free for all the members to be in there. And we're trying to get 100 of these groups started across the country and literally have a plug and play format where we've got a format, an agenda, icebreakers, everything. Here's the material to pass out to the members. Here's the slides to go through at your meeting for a 12-month rotation, and then the agendas kind of reset themselves every 12 months. So that's kind of been something that's taken a while to get going, but it is honestly probably, of everything I do, it is the best use of my time right now because it brings me deals, it brings me private money, and on the recruiting side with EXP, it's bringing agents that are saying, I want to know how to do this. My broker, my team leader isn't showing me how to do this. I don't want to work for 20 years and still be doing open houses 20 years from now. I want to learn what you're doing. So I'm going to come park my license with you and come work with you since we're already working together on the investor side.
Yep, love it, dude. And hey, real quick, man, your video froze up. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were
Okay.
going on there, but see if it'll re-click.
I have no idea what's going on, man. I have not had any problems with this at all. It's still showing up as frozen.
There we
Is
go.
it okay now?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know. If it does it again, I'll just kinda I saw that it was frozen too, but I didn't wanna just stop in the middle of it too. If I see that it freezes again, I'll just kinda finish what I'm saying real quick and we'll unfreeze it again, I guess. I don't know why it's doing that, so
Yep. All right, dude. So then, all right. So, you cracked the code on these locally. The vision is to grow, you said 100 of these throughout the country?
yeah, it takes, it takes some money to run these groups, and with our format, there's 2 ways that somebody could start a group with us. They could do the free version, which is what I would recommend. We have national level sponsors that will, it takes about $2,000 a month to run one of these groups. We've got national level sponsors that will come in and pay for the advertising. We use some virtual assistants to post them on certain, meetup.com and those kind of websites, creating the graphics for it, doing advertising for the group. And so somebody could essentially have one of these local meetup groups. They could become the local real estate investor expert for their area. And if you do this and follow the format, again, like we give you access to an online course where you can go through in the month, leading up to your monthly meeting, you can go through the videos, you can go through the slides, you can go through the agenda, the icebreakers. I mean, everything that it takes to run one of these groups is templated out to where you can basically run one of these groups with no money out of your own pocket. You will have an agenda that's working for a lot of other people across the country. We hop on calls in between the meetings to kind of, hey, how are you going to be doing this? How is this icebreaker working for you, Josh? We kind of partner together that way, and then we provide the sponsors so that you're not having to pay out of pocket. Now there is a paid version if somebody wants to turn one of these things into a profit center for yourself. You'll go out and find the sponsors, and then you get to keep the sponsorships. You still get everything else, but for most people starting off, the free version is the way to go. And so what we're trying to do this next year is set up 100 local agents to be the local real estate investor expert for their area. Run one of these monthly meetings. You're going to need to meet with people one on one in between meetings. You're going to need to meet with people to get them signed up for this thing, even though it's totally free for them to join your breakfast club. There are 5 things that they're going to have to agree to do, or they can't be part of it, right? And none of those cost them money. It's just some things they're going to commit to over the next 12 months or the next 5 years to be part of this. And what we're really doing is we're building a community of people who are all going towards this 5-year plan. We've got a 5-year plan that just about anybody can follow. That's very, very, very conservative, right? You could go way more risk averse if you wanted to speed up the process. But if you follow this 5-year plan, most people at the 5-year mark are going to be at a point where their housing expenses, their living expenses, and their income is covered passively. And so then a whole world opens up to you. I'm about 3 years into the 5-year plan right now. This is something that I firmly believe in. I still have a little bit of ways to go before I'm at my, passive cash flow number. But it all starts very simple. These are simple action steps that anybody can follow. And so, as an agent right now, if you're looking to differentiate yourself, you're looking to maybe jump into a new lead source, For me, this one lead source is feeding my entire investment business. It's helping me recruit agents, and it's helping us bring in production. I'll give you an example. I met with a girl here at the office on Friday. She had about $200,000 worth of equity in her home. And step one of our process of the 5 year plan is to get you to where just your housing expenses are covered. And she's got enough, enough equity that if she takes out a home equity line of credit, she can go and buy a couple investment properties that will not only pay for themselves, but they will pay for her current house payment, which means she's going to be living totally for free. So, just that one meeting, I met with her for probably 45 minutes on Friday. She got approved for the HELOC today. We're certainly got to wait for it to close. But over the next year, she's going to buy 3 houses with that 200,000 that she has. She can buy a property, renovate it, refinance it, pay off the home equity line of credit. You can go do that a couple times, and now you've got step one of the 3 year of the 3 step plan over a 5 year period already mapped out. So that's going to generate hopefully 3 commission checks. We're going to be able to go find her 3 properties. She's going to be able to tell other people that she works with about this breakfast club idea, about why she went and got a home equity line of credit. And now that's going to just continue to bring in more sources of clients. Some people come to these meetings and they say, Phil, I don't want to do what you're doing, but I got some money sitting to the side. I'd love to do something with it. Well, now I can turn that into a private lending relationship. Now I can go find a property, and if I need $100,000, this person said they want to invest with me. I go find the property, give them a call. Do you want to do this deal? Okay, here's how we're going to do it. So yeah, that's basically, that one thing is kind of driving everything for us. I'm also a big fan of putting together a book. I learned from my first book that I did, kind of how the publishing thing kind of works. So on the second one I'm doing, I'm self-publishing. So we've actually got a very streamlined process. If somebody wanted to start one of these breakfast club groups and they wanted to self-publish a book, we've got templates to help them do that. It's never been easier now with AI. I mean, stuff that used to take hours and hours and thousands of dollars, AI can basically do a lot of this stuff for you. So what would it be like for you at a local level as an agent to be the local investor expert, to have deals coming to you, to have investors coming to you, to have other agents coming to you, and having your own self-published book that's on Amazon, that's on Audible, and really like establishing yourself as you're different than all the other agents. That's what we're looking to do by hopefully starting 100 of these breakfast clubs in 2026.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Because I mean, if you think about this, let's just say somebody isn't able to hit that 100 attendee mark, but they hit 50. They get 50 people that are committed. I'm guessing those 5 things that you have them do is to just kind of ensure that they're committed and that they're like you mentioned, they're all free, but I'm sure it's a vetting
Mhm.
process.
That's right.
So then okay, you got 50 people, and if the average person is buying a unit a year, on this 5 year plan, I'm sure the average number might be even more than that. But even if it's a deal a year, that's 50 deals a year for one night a week or one night a month. Yeah,
Yep.
right. And then, yeah, it's 50 deals. And that's what I love about investors, man. Like, I've always loved traditional buyers and sellers too. But what I've really loved about investors, twofold. Number one, the emotions aren't there. It's just a business transaction. But then the velocity of transactions is so much greater because you might have one great investor that does 20 units a year from you. I mean, 2012 through 2022, we had one investor buying like 20 units every single month like clockwork. So it's just that increases that where if you get a traditional buyer and seller, maybe they do 4, 5, 6, 7 deals through your 30-year career through repeat referral business, but with investors, it's just so much more velocity.
Yeah, the emotions, you nailed it. Most investors who have actually done a couple deals, they know more than most real estate agents. Unfortunately, like that's just where we're at in an industry right now. But I had one yesterday. I was helping my dad with something, and we've got a property that's closing on Friday, a little small flip that we did. And the termite inspector went out yesterday, did their inspection, calls me up. Hey, Mr. Duke, I found some active termites. I'm going to have to treat it, and we'll get this all done today. We can do it while we're here, and we'll send the bill to closing. And like a normal buyer, like a first time home buyer who found, termites were found on their wood infestation report would be like freaking out.
Yeah.
But like as an investor, it's like, okay, there's $650. They got it taken care of. We're still going to close Friday. Who cares? And that's how most investors are. It's just like the emotions aren't there. They understand the process. They understand how the contract to close works, all the steps. You're not having to like, sit down and do a formal presentation of a home inspection report and hope that they don't back out. It's just the deals are so much smoother. And depending on how you're monetizing the deal, I could call an agent today, get a property under contract tomorrow, close on it in 7 to 10 days, and make money super duper quick. So you're dealing with all cash buyers, normally no inspection or minimal inspection. So the deals are just so much easier dealing with this side of it. So I've kind of now listen. I still will list a house or two. I have a huge past client database. I'm still listing like a house or two a week on the MLS just from past clients. But I'm really all my focus is on the investor side of things. And I've also found too, this is really interesting too. I found that a lot of our past clients were going out and investing, but they weren't using us to go invest with. They didn't see us as the investor expert. We were the one that helped them buy their first house. We were the one that helped them sell their house and buy their new house they're living in now. But what I found, this was also a great way to break the ice with past clients as well. So, past clients, they didn't know I was doing this. They're not on social media. I hadn't talked to them in a while. And getting some of those people to come to these breakfast club meetings has turned into really fast deals too. Cause now we've got somebody that's dealt with me in the past. They liked the way I operated, but they didn't know that I was an investor guy too. And so some of them are in really good positions right now because they bought their house 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. They don't want to sell, but they've got a huge amount of equity. And if they could just go get a home equity line of credit, they could be investors pretty much overnight if they had the right plan to follow. So yeah, this has been like really growing the breakfast club has probably been the best thing I've done in years. And so now we're wanting to take this and we're wanting to help other people do it across the country as well.
Yeah, and what's so awesome is, you've got everything plug and play. Because, like you mentioned, okay, yeah, you could go get your own vendors, turn into a profit center. But it's like, man, the amount of headache that goes into that, make a little bit of profit. Like, I'd rather just focus, have the plug and play, focus fully on the relationships, the client acquisition from those client relationships, and just staying in my lane. And I've got a couple other
Mhm.
questions for you. But before I, switch gears, for anybody that's watching and listening to you, if they're interested in becoming that local expert, and want to start their own, breakfast club, with your guidance and your leadership here, like where do they go to like set up a conversation with you to learn out more?
Yeah, I mean, if you just follow me on Facebook or Instagram, like my calendar link is all over the place. Just find my calendar link, find a time that works for you, set it up, and we'll be glad to talk you through what those steps would be. You will have to find a partner, no matter how experienced you are as an investor or inexperienced. We start every one of these things off with two people, like a leader and a co leader. And at least one of you will have to have done at least 4 investment properties in your career. So, 2 rentals and 2 flips, 3 wholesales and 1 rental, 4 flips, 4 rental properties, 4 Airbnbs. So you'll need to find a partner that can help you with that, and those are usually very easy to find. And we will help you even kind of know like where to look for to find who would be a good fit for a partner. There's normally like people locally that are hard money lenders, or they're insurance agents, or they are HELOC experts, even like IRA managers in some instances, where you can monetize it on your side as a real estate professional, but then they can also monetize this group on the lending side, the insurance side. And there's normally those people are pretty easy to find, and those kind of make for the best partners. You don't want to have another agent typically, kind of co-leading this group with you, because then you're kind of like fighting over the same people for clients. But yeah, that it's really simple. There's a little bit of training they have to go through. It takes normally about 5 or 6 weeks. We want 5 or 6 weeks to advertise your like initial meeting because we need that much time to advertise it and get people signed up and do some marketing behind it. But yeah, you could essentially start one of these groups with no money out of your own pocket. We'll go find the vendors for you. We'll find the sponsors for you. Can even help you finding the venue, and the format is plug and play. And if you follow this, you should within 6 months you should be at like 100 people in your group and have a waiting list for people getting into the group. We really don't want to go over 100 people. It gets really hard to manage over 100. But with our marketing and with this process, most people are going to get to 100 people within the 6 months of starting one of these groups. So,
Yeah. Are you cool with me just toss your Calendly link like in the description? So, oh,
yeah,
okay, cool. Somebody that's
yep,
watching or listening, I'll just have Phil's, I'll have his social media links. So anywhere you're watching or listening, show notes, description, you can click on those, follow Phil, see what he's doing. But then I'll have his Calendly link below too, just make it easier so you guys don't have to go hunt that down. So, all right. So kind of switching gears here, man. You mentioned earlier that you believe things are going to get worse before they get better. I know none of us have a crystal ball, but it's on everybody's mind. I get asked this question more than any other questions I get asked right now is Josh, like, where do you see the market? What do you think's happening? And where do you see this going? Again, nobody's going to hold you to this because we all get to understand there's so many outside players and manipulation that can happen. And, you know, but I mean, when you say that comment of, you believe that things are going to get worse before you get better, like, I mean, what is your prediction on where you see this real estate market going?
yeah. I mean, hopefully, interest rates are going to come down a little bit. Again, if that happens, there's going to be a huge refinance. I don't think people are going to move that much. And I think, the reason why I think things have been tough on the traditional buyer, traditional seller, listing properties is there's a lot of people that are like me, who refinanced when rates were super low. And if I don't have to move, I'm not giving up my 2.25% 30-year VA loan that I have on my house, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw that on a rate sheet in an email, I reached out to the guy. I was like, "Is that a typo?" And he's like, "No, man, that's legit." I was like, "Let's lock it in today." So you just don't see as many people like casually buying and casually selling. Like in a normal summer, we would have people who really didn't have to move, but they would put their house up for sale and they would see what they could get. And if they could get the number they wanted, then they would make the move. Well, we don't really have that because even if you could get the number you want, you're going to end up having to buy, a more expensive house maybe at an even higher interest rate, and it kind of cancels itself out. So we're just seeing on the traditional retail side of things, we're just seeing less what I would call motivated sellers, people who actually absolutely have to sell their house, right? They live in Alabama, but they took a job in Arizona and they start there in 6 weeks. And if they don't sell this house in Alabama, they're going to be eating a mortgage payment every month. We just don't have as many of those as what we've had in the past. So I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to be, tougher on the retail side of things. But when it's tougher on the retail side of things and houses are sitting there, listings are sitting there not selling, it brings up opportunities for investors to come in and kind of fill that niche.
Yeah.
And so, whether you're taking them down, with creative financing, there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. But there's people out there that if they could just walk away from their property, maybe they get a little bit of money up front. Maybe they just get the mortgage payments covered and it's off their plate. For those people that understand how to do those transactions, there's going to be more of those coming up. So it might be a little bit slower on the traditional buyer seller side of things. It's also right now, it's one of the most, or maybe the most unaffordable time to live in our country right now with the cost of groceries and fuel and insurance and car payments. I mean, gracious, like it's hard to even find an affordable vehicle for like an affordable price anymore. I don't even know if they exist anymore. So like it's just generally getting very expensive to live right now. And I think that's going to make it even harder for people to become first time home buyers or to be a move up buyer. I think a lot of people are just going to be kind of stuck where they are. for a little while this stuff all kind of works itself out. And I think that's just going to bring up a lot of opportunities on the investor side. So I could be totally wrong, though. I'm not an economist. You go into it way more than I do. I look forward to hopping on your calls throughout the month and kind of learning from you, because I know you dig into that a whole lot more than I do. But I just listen to people like you when they tell me that they think it's going to get worse, and I kind of see what I think's going on with our local market. And I think generally that's the way things are trending right now.
Yeah, and I think like, okay, you versus me is a prime example that just illustrates the point of, you got what's going on nationally, but then especially with real estate, it's so hyper local. Like you and I have had a lot of conversations on this. Like during the great financial crisis, my market got ripped apart. Like the house that I'm sitting in right now, the dude bought it in 2005, is a new build. Now, no backyard. It was just like, new build, but he paid like 575 for it. I picked this thing up in 2012 for like, I don't know, two and a quarter,
Yeah,
and now today it's worth, whatever it's worth, right?
that's right.
But
Yeah.
we had homes that were, 300 grand that you could pick up at the bottom for 85. So,
Hmm.
we just got ripped apart. Well, your market back then, like barely got hit, because you didn't
Yeah.
have the big upswings before,
Hmm.
so I just want to illustrate that point of like, it's for everybody watching this is like, yeah, you got what's going on nationally, but make sure you're a local market expert, right? Because what happens
Yeah.
in, Alabama might be totally different than what happens in Arizona. And even in Alabama, what happens in Huntsville might be different than Tuscaloosa, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have like, we still have like big hedge funds buying properties like an hour and 20 minutes away from us, but they're not doing it here.
Yeah.
So for those sellers in my market here, that the house is just sitting there and it's not selling, and they don't know how much longer they can eat that mortgage payment every month, that they don't have the hedge fund coming in. They don't have the instant offer iBuyer coming in to buy that property because this market doesn't meet that criteria. But for me as a local investor, I can fill that need. So like even when like the big rent to own companies were buying stuff, and doing that a couple years ago, there was people in our community inside the GSD mode community that were crushing it with the rent to own stuff.
Yeah.
Those companies were never buying in my market. But we took their model and we started doing it in Tuscaloosa, and what do you know, it worked.
Yeah.
So like there's always going to be an opportunity out there. And so yeah, you got to know what's going on with your market. But our market has been very consistent. Like when it goes down, it goes down a little bit. When it goes up, it goes up a little bit. We don't have these swings, but we are starting to notice days on the market's going up, prices are coming down a little bit. And so I'm starting to feel even more confident about the direction we've chosen to go, because I think it's about to really, really open up the floodgates for us, to really start taking down more properties, just because people are in those situations where they have a property that's causing them stress, and we're able to come in and figure out a solution for that. So without taking advantage of people, without ripping people off, right? So yeah.
All right, man. So I want to ask you about your move to EXP, because as you mentioned earlier, I mean, you had a very successful real estate brokerage, 10 locations spread out between multiple different states. You had mortgage, you had the ancillary set up, you're, profitable, you're doing really well. Um, a lot of people in that situation, or people from outside are sitting in and be like, well, why would you shut that down? Not shut it down, but make that move where you're moving these locations into somebody else's platform like EXP. Because when we hear obviously a lot of agents and teams, but I'm interested in
Mhm.
your take as a brokerage owner with, so, a successful brokerage, because, it's a different story if you're losing 20 grand a month and the brokerage is sinking you, then okay, it can make sense to make the move. But I'm curious, like what led you to making this move?
Yeah. Well, it really, it was something that came after like months and months and months of really looking at it. But really, what I started doing last year, about this time last year, was I really started looking at, what was I doing to bring in income? What were my different income sources? Putting those monthly into like a profit and loss tracker. So I made money on this one. Here's how much money I made. Made money on this one. Here's how much money I made. Lost money on this one. Here's how much money I lost. And what I really noticed was the brokerage side of things was getting a little bit tougher. It was getting a little bit thinner as you know the markets progressed, as agents are getting in and out, as production of agents is going uh, at that time was going down a little bit, and I started looking at what I was doing to make money and how much energy went into each of those things. And so I've never been one. Some people are really good at this. Some people are not. I've never been good at being able to juggle like multiple projects at one time, multiple businesses at one time. You know, I kind of go through seasons where like this is the one I'm really focused on, and that one does really well. Sometimes at the expense of another one. And so for me, I just started really realizing that this investing stuff that I was doing kind of part time. Some weeks it was more full time, but generally more of a side hustle. This investing stuff that I was doing was actually bringing in more money than running the 10 brokerages was. And it really wasn't any harder. And honestly, I had less overhead with running the investing side of the business than I did running the brokerage side. Cause like, as a broker, at our largest point, we had 167 agents. Well, you got to have staff who can help that. I mean, good luck running 167 by yourself. There's agents that need support. There's agents that need help with their contracts, their paperwork. You have you charge tech fees on the first of the month, and 10 people's cards didn't go through because they got turned off for fraudulent charges. They're waiting on their new debit card to come in, and now you're having to check every couple days, or somebody's having to check every couple days, just to see if they got their new debit card in so we can charge them their monthly tech fee that they signed a contract to sign. And so just, for me, it just became clear when I was looking at the numbers that there was a bigger opportunity out there. And that if I didn't have, uh, the extra titles of running the brokerage, if I didn't have the extra tasks that come with running a business, reviewing P&Ls and making sure bills are getting paid and meeting with staff members. If I didn't have that, how much more could I do on the investor side of things, which is where I was really making a lot of money with less time and energy. And so when we looked at it and really looked at what would it look like if we just took what we have right now, closed down the brokerage business, brought our people to EXP, and then focused more on the investor side of things. And what we found, I guess it's been about 6 months now that we came over there. Our agents get more support and more coaching and more training than I was ever able to offer them, even when I was the qualifying broker of the office, right? Like we would agents would have a closing. They would go to the closing. They would bring the commission check to the office, or they would go deposit in our bank account. We'd have to wait 2 or 3 days to make sure that thing cleared, and then we'd have to go in and send their direct deposit. With EXP, I don't even know how they do it as fast as they do, but like our agents are at the closing, they scan the settlement statement and the commission check, send it into EXP, and then by the end of the day, they're getting an email saying their direct deposit has initiated. They're getting paid before EXP has even gotten paid. Our agents can log into the EXP broker chat. Again, every state has its own broker room inside EXP system. If an agent of mine has a question now about a contract or something on their checklist got flagged, they can literally log in there, and we've never had to wait more than 60 seconds to talk to somebody inside one of those broker rooms. I've got agents now operating in other states. They've added other states to their licenses. I don't know all the rules for Mississippi, even though it's the state that's right beside us. And I don't have to, because those agents can go to the Mississippi broker room and get the answer that they need. So it really just allowed me to keep doing what I was doing. Right, we're still recruiting at a high level. We're still growing our team. I think we've added like 32 agents since we came over on May 1st. But now I'm not responsible for all the onboarding, all the assistance, all the coaching. We had a little coaching program we would put them through when they would join us. And it was me and some of my leaders kind of combining together. Well, now all of my agents are able to get Joshua Smith as their coach. Now all my agents are able to get Mike Sherrard as their coach on AI and social media and YouTube and all those kind of things. So like it is just really, it made a lot of sense. And it freed me up a lot to be able to go after the investor side 100% versus kind of being in the brokerage business and kind of being an investor. Now I've got that off my plate. I'm just a 1099 independent contractor like everybody else, right? I've got that off my plate, and now my agents have 2,500 full-time employees that are helping them with anything that they need. Whereas before, you know, we were at the mercy of that one admin being at the office. Like, what happens if that admin's on vacation? What happens if that admin is sick? What happens if that admin's son or daughter is sick? In a small business like what we had with those 10 locations, and we had a good business, still do have a good business. We just had problems scaling because you were always fixing problems and you were always dealing with issues. And it was the stuff that you didn't really want to deal with. Like when you go to start a brokerage, you don't imagine that you're going to have to be like hunting people down to get their debit card to run their tech fees every month. But it's just part of running a business because every month a certain number are not going to go through. So just little stuff like that we were having to do. Now that stuff is totally off our plate, and it's allowed us to go even deeper with the agents we have and go deeper on the investor side. So it just freed up a lot of time. Kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts. None of those things are bad by themselves, but if you had 1,000 paper cuts, it'd be really, really painful. And that's kind of how it was. That's kind of how it felt for us once we got to that level. We were just putting out fires all the time instead of really doing what we set out to do. And now we don't really have that many fires to put out on a daily and weekly basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. I think the mistake that most make, especially brokerage owners, when they're looking at EXP, and I made this mistake too, is I looked at it as just a brokerage. And yeah, I mean, it's a real estate brokerage, but really what it is EXP is a platform that allows you to plug into to build any size of business that you want to build. So as brokerage owners, which is, one of my top types of businesses that we're attracting and partnering with right now is, I mean, there's just so many brokerage owners that are making this move right now. Because again, like all the reasons that you just said, it's like every time you add another agent or another location, it's like add another bar to the jail cell. But it's like you can keep all your own branding. You can keep, just the brokered by EXP. It just eliminates all exposure, all risk, all those headaches. Allows us just, I mean, I'm having more fun, than I've ever had. And I get to focus on two things, right? Overall growth of
Mhm.
our, agent partner account, and then just coaching and training. Everything else, I let EXP deal with all those headaches. And then, like you said, I mean, I could just never match the stock options, the exit strategies, the systems, the support. It's just a win for everybody all the way around. And for anybody that's watching and listening, the cool part about how EXP works is because, Phil and I are partners at EXP. If you were to reach out to Phil, have a conversation with him, decide that EXP is a fit for you, join Phil. Not only do you get Phil's mentorship and guidance, but then, as he mentioned, you get all of my coaching, mentorship training for free, Mike Sherrard's coaching training for free, plus all of EXP's 70 plus hours every week of training, their 2,500 support staff. So Phil, if anybody's watching or listening, they're interested in learning more about partnering with us at EXP, they want to reach out to have a conversation. Is it the same Calendly schedule link?
Yeah, it's real simple. One
Okay.
link for everything. So yeah, if you click that calendar link that Josh has put in the description, that will bring up what I have, and be glad to talk with anybody out there. It's really been a great move for us, and it's been a great move for our agents as well. And I was nervous about it, really nervous about it, because we spent 7 or 8 years building our own thing, and then to come over here, you don't really know what you're getting until you move over. But it has been way better. In fact, once we were kind of going through it and getting plugged in with all the stuff, I was like, this would have taken us years to build, and now we get it instantly. It's done. It's already finished, and it's just going to get better from here. So it's really been eye opening to relieve ourselves from some of those duties that we were doing before, and now be able to focus on more money making activities instead of non money making activities. So
Yep, 100%. And Phil, man, appreciate you taking time out of busy day to be here, man. This has been a lot of fun, my friend.
yeah, man, look forward to many more.
Yeah, 100%. Those watching, listening, as always, we truly appreciate you. Truly appreciate watching all your support. Keep crushing it, and we will see you next time. Peace.